Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm gonna go over the tornado and the mechanics around it, some tips to use it for new players, and how to aim it. Starting it off with the information about it, it is a missile and it does two types of damage. The first is a collision, which can be blocked. When hit, it's put on a 1 second delay before it can collide again, and it will not continuously switch between targets, hitting them all. The second type of damage is an AoE that hits all units in range. This targets everything on the tile, uh, and it starts immediately. And every 2/3 of a second, it'll tick again for that AoE damage. The damage both of these do is what's listed on the toolbar. There's not any more or less damage. It's basically going to be double, and I'm going to get onto this here. If a druid casts this on top of an enemy, both types of damage are applied right away. The first one, which you can block, and then the AoE damage, which cannot. Something to be careful of if you're fighting a druid is if he stomps you 2/3 of a second later after that tornado comes out, if you start running towards where the tornadoes are going, they will hit you again. So you don't ever want to run away into the tornadoes. I know that sounds really obvious, but sometimes people can panic and that can be their response. Don't ever do that. You will take way too much damage. And for PvE, this is actually quite useful because if you're fighting a monster with a large unit size, you'll hit them multiple times because it's almost always going to tick again before it exits their unit. So getting into using a tornado, for new players, it's actually a little bit difficult for them to use a tornado because it's a bit random. As well as that, the tornadoes don't do enough damage to put most monsters into a hit recovery animation. What I suggest you do when you're new to it is you actually cast Twister first, and then you cast 2 to 3 tornadoes afterwards. The reason why you do this is A, Twister has a very big radius since there's 3 of them, so it makes it easier to aim. B, it's gonna keep them in place, and then C, it puts a 0.4 second stun on the enemy. That's the little white circle that goes above their head. What that does is any damage they take, they will go into hit recovery while they have that stun over their head. And since you weaved in 2 to 3 tornadoes afterwards, it's almost always going to have a follow-up hit recovery after it. It makes using tornadoes quite easy, though I wouldn't do this in PvP. And later on, your tornadoes are going to do enough damage to put enemies into a hit recovery on their own, and the Twister will be a DPS loss. Moving on to the next tactic, this is called making a tornado train. How this works is you cast a tornado, you take a step forward, and then you just cast another one and keep doing that. And what this does is it creates a little ball of tornadoes that is around you as you walk with it. This can be good for taking on groups of enemies as well as in PvP. And it's pretty easy to aim as well. Like I suggest this for new players too that are just having problems hitting things at range. But we're going to talk about the PvP uses right now. And that's going to be protecting yourself from somebody that's trying to telestomp onto you. This having all of these tornadoes around you, they're all going to be ticking for that AoE damage, and if someone teleports into it, they are going to take the AoE damage as well as collision, and it's a very, very strong defensive tool to practice and learn because you'll be using it a lot when you're against something else that will telestomp you, like barbarians that didn't leap and stun you, um, druids, like other wind druids. It's just basically you guys are making tornado trains and staring at each other. Things like paladins, any type of paladin, honestly. You're gonna want to use this. It's very strong. Okay. Anyways, we've talked enough about that. Let's actually get on to how to use the tornadoes and aim them. The first thing, you never want to name lock somebody. That's when you when you see their health bar, when you have the mouse cursor over them, the only time you ever want to be doing that is if you have them name locked. They went off screen, you switched to teleport while holding right click, and then you immediately switched back to tornado. That is the only time you want to be doing that, because if you're doing it any other time, the tornadoes are going to be extremely random. Okay, so I'm going to go over how to aim the tornadoes now. Now, this graph looks really confusing, and I apologize for that in advance, but I'm going to explain it to you right now. These are all the places where you want to aim your tornado if you want it to be accurate. That's going to be this top corner here, right here on the side of the screen, right here on the bottom left, right at the bottom, bottom right, here, here, and here. Now, you'll probably see these lines here. What these lines mean is if you don't want it to be accurate, but instead you want to fill up this entire quadrant, what you do is you start here or anywhere on this line. You start there and then you just slowly work your way up. And what that will do is the Druid will fill up the whole area with tornadoes. This is good for in PvP if you think the guy is going to teleport into this corner, or if you're doing PvE and you see a bunch of Fallens running around or whatever, you do that. Same with here. You just start here, drag it all the way to the side. Same here. Same here. Just all these lines. You don't have to worry about these lines right here. The diamond shape, that was just to help me line it up. Same with the square. It's just these corners of the square and diamond that you have to aim for, and then these straight lines going out like a beam of light. That's just how you fire your tornadoes. Now, I'm not going to just leave it at this photo because I'm sure most of you are scratching your head like, what the hell is this guy drawn? I'm actually going to show you some live gameplay too, and we're going to get right into that right now. Alright, so I hope that helped somewhat. If you had any questions or concerns, I'm always happy to help. Just fire me a comment and I'll answer as soon as I can. That'll be it, guys. Have a good one.